What's going on, guys? It's fineokay, and today I'm bringing you guys a video on SOLOBEK. It's basically a guide on how to play Sobek in the solo lane, the Crocodile. I actually just got a new Sennheiser mic slash headset, so let me know if you guys like the sound quality on that, if it's any better. Hopefully there's not a lot of background noise. We're going to talk about a variety of things. We're going to try and go over pretty much everything. I'm going to make some cuts, not because I feel like I can't talk that long, but because I want it to be like clear and concise. So like we're going to have how to clear with him, what items you want to get. We're going to have different, I guess, sections of the video, right? So this would be the intro, and we're going to go to the next part. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about is what you're going to be starting on Sobek in the solo lane. This is pretty simple. You're just going to be starting Vamp Shroud, Tier 1 boots. Remember, you only have 1500 gold, 3 health pots, and this is where it's a little bit tricky. If you go 3 health pots, but if you have a lot of pressure in mid, this is where you have to have a lot of knowledge about the game, knowing that you would get pressure in mid and you could get your own buffs, your own blue or whatever. Then you can go 3 multi-pots. If you have your own blue with Vamp Shroud and your regen, you should be fine. Like you won't run out of mana. However, if you feel like you're not going to be able to get your blue because you do not have pressure in mid, then you can just go 3 mana pots. You just 3 health, 3 mana. You'll be good with this. You'll have enough health to sustain with your 3 and Vamp Shroud. So this would be the start. And then for your relic, you can go pretty much whatever you want. I like to go shell, but usually they don't have a lot of kill potential on you, so shell's not the greatest, although it's still important because you can use it to fight. You help your jungler out, you shell them, you know, they stay alive. But you can go sprint, you could go maybe even a horrific, something like that. Maybe even a hog if you're trying to do some like jungle clear strat. But we're just going to stick with shell just for this video. And so once you get your start, you're going to be level 1. I've already did a video on how to clear level 1 as a guardian, so check that out if you don't know how. So we're just going to talk about how to play laning phase, so I'm going to get a few levels real quick. Let's just be level 4, okay? So we have 2 points in our 3, and 1 point in our 2 and in our pluck. Your 3 is what you're going to be maxing first. This is your main way to clear the wave. I'm just going to wait for these minions to kill each other so I can clear the next wave. With Sobek, clearing is a little difficult. You have to use 2 abilities, and for some reason this minion is still alive. You have to use 2 abilities, and you have to hit the entire wave with both. And you have to have 4 points in your 3 and 2 points in your 2 to even clear the entire wave without having to auto it. So I'll show you what I mean real quick. I'm not sure how the minions like tankiness work right now based on the game time, but okay, it's usually not like this, but usually I'd be able to hit the entire wave, right? I'd hit the entire wave, but these walls are in the way. It's not solo, and then I would 2 the entire wave. And these are still quite a few autos away from even dying, right? So that's because I only have 2 points in my 3 and 1 point in my 1. However, if I, let me go back here. If I have 4 points in my 3 and 2 points in my 2, that'll be the point in the game where I'm full clearing the archers, right? So I'll show you what I mean real quick. I'm not even going to hit the front ones because it was so difficult because this wall is in the way. So I 3 it, and then I 2 it, and if I had 1 point in my 2, it would not kill those minions. I'd have to auto them each once. But since I have 2 points in my 2 and 4 points in my 3, it'll full clear that. So that's a pretty big power spike for Sobek. Once he hits that, he's going to be able to clear the wave super easily. However, there is a point in the game where it's pretty hard for you to clear, like especially at like level 5. That's like probably your worst time clearing, so we're going to hit level 5 real quick. You're level 5, maybe level 6, your buffs are coming up, you need to make sure you have pressure. Say that I have been using my abilities and I'm completely out of mana. There's nothing wrong with just ulting the wave, because if I just charge my full, say these minions had full health, they'd die, and I'd hit the entire wave. Say the wave's just met. There's nothing wrong with just using your ult to regen your mana, and also just clearing the entire wave and maybe hitting the other solos so you can get a little bit of pressure so that you can actually defend your buffs, or maybe invade their buffs. There's nothing wrong with ulting in lane. It's actually pretty smart to ult in lane. Also, another thing to talk about in the laning phase is after you've 3-2'd the entire wave, sometimes you'll be able to hit the enemy solo laner. Say he's like walking up to this wave to clear it, I 3 it, and I also 2 him and the wave. They'll group up and start hitting me. But another thing I can do is like, once he walks up to clear this wave, say I'm going to wait for the next wave. Once the enemy solo laner walks up to clear this wave, once they actually come, if they ever do. Alright, So say he walks up to clear this wave. What I can do is I can walk over here, and if he's like right in the minion wave, and I 3-2 him, or maybe I even just 2 him to start, I can pluck him away from, say that's the solo laner. I can pluck him away from my wave. That way the minions attack me, and I can group them up and hit him with my entire 3. Or it's just good because I can pluck him away from the wave, and it makes him more awkward to clear, right? So that's something to think about. Another thing to think about in the laning phase is there, do they have an ability I can interrupt? Like if it's a Bellona and she walks up to this wave, I need to wait for her to use her bludgeon, so I just 2 her, and then, you know, she doesn't have her bludgeon damage, right? She'll still probably outclear me, but, you know, that's just kind of something to think about. So that's pretty simple. That's just basically how to play Sobek in the laning phase, so let's go to the next part. Also, guys, I didn't really talk about it, but something I wanted to talk about with the start is Frame Shroud is really good on Sobek because you're hitting the entire wave with your 3 and your 2, so you're getting 12 procs of each. So 12 procs of Vamp Shroud would be 12 times 6 plus 12 times 3, so that's it's a lot of health back. Plus, you're already getting a heal from your Sickening Strike, right? So say this is max, so I'm getting 60 plus 2, maybe a little bit more once I have my boots and stuff. So I'm getting, and I'm hitting 3 minions, so I'm getting basically 180, maybe 200 health with magical power, 200 health plus the Vamp Shroud procs, so I'm just getting so much sustain, right? So that's part of the reason it's really good on Sobek. Plus the physical protections are always good, so you can tank waves. So yeah, that's something I just wanted to go over real quick. Alright, the next thing we're going to talk about, guys, is basically how to build Sobek. I want to talk about Stone of Binding on Sobek, so in order to do that, I'm going to go over the first kind of thing that we need to talk about, which is what to build before we even get to Stone of Binding. So, as far as boots go, I'm going Shoes of Focus every time. Shoes of Magi are a good pickup on Sobek. However, in Conquest, with the meta and everything right now, I prefer Shoes of Focus just because it gives you a lot of mana, gives you a lot of it gives you 10% cooldown reduction, which is actually pretty important because the more cooldown reduction you can add up to 40, so you can get to that cap. Plus, like I said, it gives you that mana, and your ult is percentage based on the mana regen. So the more mana you have, the more you're going to get back. And last but not least, I love plucking in lane. I love just to pluck the enemy solo laner in lane as long as I'm not getting ganked, and as long as I have my ult up. So the more cooldown I have, the more often I can do that. So I just like to go Shoes the Focus. The first item, of course, every time, unless we're against a magical solo or against like an Alquang jungle or maybe like a Freya plus another hard-hitting mage in mid, and we're team fighting a lot. If none of those things are happening, I'm going Breastplate here every time. However, if one of those is happening, I do like to go Mantle. We want to be going cooldown first. We want to keep our cooldown up because that's how we're going to be doing damage, and that's how we're going to be able to team fight effectively. So if they have Alquang jungle or maybe 2 hard-hitting mages, I'll be going Mantle here. But if not, usually I just be going Breastplate, right? And our third item, like I said before, and I want to talk about it, is Stone of Binding. So I'm just going to stop right here on the build real quick. I'll go over the build a little bit more in a bit. But I want to talk about Stone of Binding a bit. So Stone of Binding on Sobek is really good, and I'll show you why. So if I pluck an enemy, I proc the Stone of Binding passive twice. I proc it right when I hit him because it's a stun, and I also proc it when it throws him, so it refreshes. And also, if I'm plucking this, say this is a enemy soul laner and my jungler's here, I pluck him into my jungler, we both have that extra, that 10%, not 10%, but 10 pen that this gives us. And 10 pen is really good. The more pen you have, the more likely you're going to be getting towards true damage, and that's always important. So this 10 pen is really big. Plus, the stats on it are pretty good. For 1700 gold, I get 30 of each protections. That's good for survivability. So it procs on my 1 twice. It procs on my 2, as you can see. So I'm getting the proc off of it there. And it also procs him ult, as you can see. I start slowing him, and it's procced. However, with the ult, and I'll show you what I mean in a second, with the ult, you have to refresh it. So if I just ult him right here and just sit here, it's not refreshing. But if I step out of range and then step back in, it refreshes the slow, and I proc the Stone of Binding again. So that's something to think about when you're ulting the enemy soul laner in wave, or in lane rather. It's not a big deal in team fights because usually you're going to be hitting multiple people, so it'll just like proc constantly. Like say like we're in a team fight and this is their mage, it's their hunter, and they're near each other, and I'm just like on both of them, it's going to be proccing, right? However, if I'm in a lane and I have a guaranteed ult, I can step out and step back in like halfway, so then I have my Stone of Binding proc guaranteed, right? So that's part of the reason Stone of Binding is so good on him. You're going to basically have it always when you're ulting because of the slow, which is super important because your ult hits so hard, so that extra pen you get is going to help you do true damage to their mage or their hunter. Also, this 10 pen that you get from this makes up for the pen that you lack when you go choose a focus instead of going pen boots. So that's kind of why I like going Stone Binding on Sobek, and why it's such a good option. I think it's pretty good on Guardians to begin with. But we're going to continue the build now. So the next item we'll be going is Voidstone. Voidstone's so good right now. It's one of the best items in the game, especially on Guardians. It gives you 150 health. That 70 magic protection is insane. 20 power, not that big a deal, but the passive is really good too. So it gives me 20% protection reduction. No, not 20%. Why do I keep saying that? 20 flat reduction, right? Plus the Stone of Binding passive over here. And most mages at level 20 are going to be having 30 magical protections if they haven't built any. And usually they haven't, right, if they're going full glass cannon. So this Ra has 30 magical protections. So at this point in the game, I'm doing true damage to their mage, unless they have like a Gauntlet of Thieves or whatever, but whatever, you guys get the point. So I'm doing true damage to this Ra. I don't want him to chase me. What the heck? So say I have a few levels and my ult is, let's just go up a little bit real quick. Where is it? Right here. And he's attacking the Odin bot. I'm just gonna go to level 13. So my ult is rank 3. So I'm level 13. My ult's hitting for 650 plus 80, so 730, right? And that's true damage. So if I ult this Ra right now, I'm going to. I'm just gonna step out so I refresh it. It hit for 730, right? What did I say? Did I say 830? I might have said 830, but it's 730 regardless, right? That is complete true damage because of my build right now. So that's why this build is really good. And also I am super tanky. I have 163 physical protections, 142 magical protections. I'm level 13 right now. I may be a higher level to get to this build in a real game, but this is kind of where we're at. So yeah, that's why that Voidstone and Stone Binding are so good together. And our next item would be Heart of the Urchin. And our last item would be usually Midgardian Mail. It depends on the situation. It's kind of a situational pickup there. Midgardian's really good though. And talking about Heart of the Urchin, some people would be like, wow, you're going Heart of the Urchin that late, that's kind of bad. And I'm just like, no, it's not. Heart of the Urchin's always a good item. Without any stacks on it, it's a good item because of the health and mana, plus the protections you get. And also, this is the point in the game when you have 5 items where you're going to be getting kills or assists in team fights no matter what. Like Sobek's team fight is so good that there's no way you're not getting those stacks. So it's a really good pickup here. Also, one thing to think about is I have 30 CDR here, and when I have my blue buff, I have full CDR. So when I only have 2 items, I have full CDR. But also, let's say you're just not getting your blue buff as much in the late game, you still can be getting a power part, right? So now I have 40% CDR without even having my blue buff, and I only have 2 items that give me CDR, whereas these items give me a lot more stats that I want, right? So yeah, I'm at full CDR. I'm super tanky. If I have any stacks on Heart of the Urchin, I'm pretty much never dying. So yeah, and then a second relic we could go is Sprint. We can maybe go Horrifics. Horrific's sometimes good. You use it on them, then they have to use their Sprint or their beads, and then you can use your ult on them afterwards when they don't have those things up. So yeah, that's basically just how to build Sobek. Let's go on to the next part. Next part we're going to talk about is Sobek into healers. So let's just say they have a Hell, maybe a Raw, maybe a Tear or whatever. This last item, I'm pretty tanky with just this. Also, I could be doing more damage. I could go Divine. Divine's really good because it gives me 80 power to help scaling with my ult, and also it gives me that pen. And also, it gives me anti-heal, and I already have anti-heal on my Sickening Strike, right? 50% plus 40% on Divine Rune, so I have 90% anti-heal if I just walk up to their Raw and I Sickening Strike him, right? So now he's only healing for 10%, which is insane, right? So if I just walk up at 3M and maybe like 2M and then I ult, I don't know why he just died there. There's no way I did that much damage, but say he was still there and I just ulted him, I'd be hitting him for 800 damage. He's not healing. You know, he's going to have to use his Aegis. Maybe his Aegis is already down, and he's just going to get one shot, right? So Divine Ruin is also a really good pickup on Sobek, especially into healers. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is how to play the fights. So with Sobek, one of his best abilities, maybe his best ability, especially in the support role, is the pluck, his pluck. You stun somebody and throw them into your team, or throw them behind you, throw them wherever, throw them into tower. It just depends. So in the solo lane, you're still playing Sobek as a as a support god, kind of. You're setting up for your team. I should say you're playing more of like a setup god. However, if I pluck this, say this enemy, like where it's a 5v5 conquest, and I pluck this guy into my team, I'm not gonna walk back to my team and help him like help do damage to that unless he's the only one in the area. So let's look at that situation again. Say this is the person I'm plucking, and this is their mage or their hunter behind their front line. Say this is their front line, and my team's behind me. I can pluck this front line into my team, and then I walk to their back line, and 3M, 2M, maybe ult them, and like ult their back line. Say their mage and hunter are right here, and I'm zoning them out just with my ult, and I'm tanky enough where they can't just kill me, and I'm CC immune so they can't lock me down. So I successfully took somebody out of position, their front line, and also zoned out their 2 damage dealers, and maybe even like got them to less than half health with my ult and maybe my 3 and my 2. And I'm never going to die in that situation, like I said, because I have CC immunity, and I'm super fast, and I'm going to be doing a lot of damage and slowing them, right? So I'm never in a bad position there. So that's one way to play team fights with Sobek if you can get your pluck off. Let me get my ult back. So yeah, that's one way to play it. Say I have, let me switch this out for Heavenly. Can I? Wait, can I not? Can you not sell actives? Wait, let me see. Okay, I guess you can. Alright, well, let's just say I have sprint. Unfortunately, I can't sell my active. Say I have sprint and a fight breaks out and I'm not near the backline. I can sprint and maybe even like, I can shell my backline, like say my backline's right here. I can sprint and then ult, and I'm going to be super fast with my ult and just get to their backline. And they're going to have to use their Aegis, they're going to have to use their actives, or they'll take that amount of damage, right? Sobek's ult is amazing. It does way too much damage. Let me go to level 20 real quick, just to show you how much damage Sobek ult does. And that's basically how you play Sobek in fights. You just literally ult their backline, you go on their backline, you make them use their actives. If their actives are already down, you try and one-shot them with your ult. And I'll show you what I mean real quick. Let's just say we're in the super late game and we're fighting. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. We're in the super late game and we're fighting, and I'm on their backline. So I'm just gonna, this is the best case scenario. I walk up 3-2 auto and I ult. Okay, so I got my 2 abilities off. He's at half health. This is a rank 20 ult. He got one shot, basically. He got 11-26, and I'm doing true damage based on my build to that mage. So yeah, Sobek ult is kind of broken. It does way too much damage, especially when you have Stone of Binding and Voidstone. These two are going to make you do true damage to their mages. So basically, all in all, just ult their backline in team fights. Use your pluck smartly, if that's a word, intelligently. What I mean by that is don't just like walk up and there's 4 people, there's 4 enemies right around each other, maybe 3 or 4, maybe their entire team. Don't just walk up and pluck them when their whole team is right here and they could just right after your pluck lock you down. Do it intelligently, and also like one way to guarantee your pluck is if you have somebody out of position and you're afraid that you might miss your pluck. I play on instant cast, so I can't like line it up. Obviously, I can 2, and then right when they hit the ground, I can pluck because there's no way for them to like move out of the way before I do that. So that's one way you can pluck before fights start. But also, like I said before, if I'm plucking somebody and my whole team's right here, unless they're the only one there, I'm never going to just like turn around and start trying to do damage to that person. I'm going to look for other people. I'm going to do it again. I pluck their front line. I'm going to look for other people around here that I can 3, maybe 2, and then maybe ult and use my actives on so that I can zone them out or maybe do a billion damage too, right? So yeah, I'm not sure if I've gone over everything. There's some things probably I'm missing. Oh, one thing we could talk about is Gold Fury, I guess, is part of team fights. So Sobek ult does a lot of damage. It's really good for secure, and this is just based on game sense and game knowledge, knowing how much DPS you're doing. Say I have my ADC on this. Wait, what the heck? That was weird. Say I have my ADC on this, and I know how much DPS we're doing. It's getting low. One thing I can do is preemptively ult, so if they walk in, they're going to take my ult damage, but also I can secure the Gold Fury with it. Say it got to the point where it was super low. So what I'm basically trying to get at is that Sobek ult is really good for securing objectives, so make sure you're calculating the DPS, or maybe not calculating, but keeping an eye on it, so that you can ult preemptively, so that you can secure the objective with your ult, and also zone the enemies out that want to walk in and try and steal it. And along that same note, if you're pulling an objective and you don't want to commit to it, you know that you don't want to commit to it, you just want to bait them in. Sobek's really good at that because you can have your ADC be on this, and then once the enemies come in around the corner, especially around like Portal Demon or Gold Fury, all you have to do is literally they come around this corner, I just pluck them into my team. We drop Gold Fury, we drop Portal, and we just go on them. So Sobek's really good at that. So baiting objectives is really good, but also securing objectives is really good on Sobek. That's part of the reason he's so good in solo right now, especially in the team fights. So yeah, that's basically how to play Sobek in the team fights. Last thing I wanted to mention that I kind of forgot about is, since I have full CDR and so much mana and the regen for my ult, before fights and just, you know, whenever, I should just be looking to 3 and 2 people whenever, right? Just like in lane, I should be 3-2ing their enemy solo. In between waves, I should be 3-2ing people before fights just to get some poke on them, just because I have full CDR. And also, like, me using mana is not a big deal because I'm going to ult in that fight and I'm going to regen it. So, you know, it's always good just to be looking for it. Maybe looking for Plux if I have the situation, as long as it's safe, you know. Make sure you realize when it's an intelligent play to pluck, right? So yeah, guys, that's basically how to play Sobek in the solo lane. This wasn't a video meant to teach you how to play Sobek in every situation, or even like how to play him in support or whatever. This is more of how to play Sobek in solo lane, in ranked, or maybe even a competitive setting. He's a really good god right now. I think he fits the meta perfectly because it's all about that mid game to late game team fights. He's super safe. He does a lot of damage, and of course he dives the backline really well. You always gotta dab, so you know, dive all backlines like I always say. And Sobek's really good at that, like I've shown you guys in this video and told you about. So yeah, that's how to play Sobek. Let me know if you guys have any other gods you want me to go over. I thought Sobek was a really good god to do this just because he's really good in the meta right now, and not everyone knows how to play him to his best potential. If I missed something, if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. I hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace out, guys.